Hey, welcome to. All right. Welcome. I forgot about her. Welcome to tonight's webinar. We're doing it with passion this time. This is our Live Life Swift webinar series. And welcome to tonight's call. We have a great guest for you. We've got Eli Bay. It's called Live Life Swift, this webinar series. And Swift is based on a method for living that helps you live in balance. It's all about, having your social life, a work and business life, your inner life. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight with Eli Bay. And we're going to look at your financial life next week with Karen Collicott, and taking care of yourself. That's like family time, health, wellness. And when you live a day where you've got all of these five things working, all these five quadrants working for you in your life, boy, oh boy, you're just living a very powerful and life, and a good life at that. So I'm really excited. Now, these seminars would not be possible without the help of Kareem Abuda from Investors Group. He helped to sponsor these. And there's Kareem. He's a great guy and a good financial planner. And that's his website and contact info. And also, we had the help of Sujana Porter from Royal LePage Connect Realty, Ajax, and can't have put this on without their support. So big thanks to both Kareem and Shujana Porter. Our guest this week is Eli Bay. For over 30 years, Eli has been helping people substantially reduce and, in many cases, eliminate chronic anxiety, insomnia, fibromyalgia, migraines, chronically high blood pressure, depression, and many other stress related physical and psychological conditions. With over 80% of physical health and conditions being driven by stress, the learned skill of stress management techniques, as taught by Eli, have produced remarkable changes for thousands of his students. Not to mention what proves to be an immeasurable value to virtually all is an increased sense of well being and the ability to change the response to the stress triggers that come up for us in our day to day lives. It could be, a family member, it could be a work situation, a bad boss, or it could be just driving home in Toronto traffic. And there's Eli. Nice little picture of Eli, looking good, man. And let's get it going. Welcome, Eli, to the call tonight.
Hello, greetings.
Yeah, nice to have you. So studies show that 34% of lost productivity at work, or maybe even in our businesses, is caused by depression and stress disorders. Yet 86% of employees, and probably us who are self-employed with stress or depression, prefer, probably, and I would imagine it's pretty equal. We prefer to suffer in silence and let our work and our businesses pay the price. What's your take on that?
Well, stress is implicated in in causing and making worse almost every health condition. So, I mean, depression has been increasing, but so are a wide range of other mental issues such as anxiety and panic attacks, sleeping issues. I mean, these are issues that affect performance, affect absenteeism, presentism. One of the major causes of absenteeism is chronic stress. But the reality is that most people do not appreciate that they're living under stress. Stress is what somebody else seems to have. I'm living, my life, but I don't have any stress. People tell me, as if stress were something like leprosy. But the reality is that the only way to escape stress is to be dead, and everybody is dealing with an inordinate and chronic stress in our lives. But it's at a low level, but it's constant, and that's the issue. And it affects not only our job performance, it affects our relationships, uh, it affects everything. Uh, Stress affects every cell, every organ, every system of the body. It affects the digestive system, the cardiovascular system, the immune system. So, is it surprising that stress affects us at work? It's one of the most significant issues of our time. In fact, the International Labor Organization at the UN declared stress the plague of our time. So
Hmm.
yeah, no, but the reality is that people don't realize they're under stress. In fact, what I see in the work that I do, I teach people how to unwind from stress, and it's an aha experience for most people who've never really experienced the depth of relaxation where the stress is literally released from the body and it becomes like, aha, I had no idea, they say, that I had so much tension in my shoulders because that's all I've known all my life.
Hmm.
You know, we become habituated to stress, and that's normal. I mean, and literally living with chronic stress is the new normal. And when someone tells me that they don't have stress, all I can say is either they don't understand what stress is or they're dead.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or something serious, medically or physically hasn't taken shape yet.
but they and even then people don't realize, so many of the conditions they're living with may have a stress component. For example, I mean, I get people coming to my training programs with anxiety or sleep, and they think, well, maybe stress plays a role. But even then, there's questions. They're usually referred by a medical practitioner, and they come. Uh, but they're astounded to see that almost all sleep problems can be cured. I mean, I've seen people who've had 10, 20, 30 years of chronic sleep problems cured in some cases in as quickly as in a week. Uh, um, actually, I just as an aside, I had a woman come to one of my trainings who said that she hadn't slept in 10 years. And I thought, yeah, she was just saying that. But and then I found out that she regularly had to spend several days in the hospital to recuperate. And I told her, I said, well, sleeping issues have proved to be among the most responsive to the work that I do, but it's not going to happen overnight. Be patient. I told her, most benefits happen even at the end of after the training. Anyway, she came to the second session reporting that she had slept every night in that previous week and continued to.
Oh, that,
But what I was about to say was that people think that okay, there may be a connection between stress and sleep, and they come and they're astounded to see not only does the training that I offer help them with their sleep, but they are shocked to discover that their heartburn goes away, that their eczema clears up, that they stop grinding their teeth, and stuff like that. Because so many things are connected to stress that people don't really appreciate.
some success gurus say there's that book, Drink the Frog. Take on the most stressful thing of your day first thing in the morning. What's your take on some that kind of viewpoint? Because
Well, I
or should we ease into our day maybe a little more?
Well, I think everybody's different, and everybody's going to respond to stress differently. Depends on our genetics, depends on our lifestyle, depends on our age. I mean, it's very hard to make a blanket. I mean, some people function best early in the morning. Some people function best later in the evening. I mean, everybody's different. You know, I my point is that you cannot escape from stress, and that's a given. I mean, I in my presentations I make it very clear that long before we get to work, long before we have to face the issues that we normally associate with stress. Uh, just as a foundation, it's important to appreciate that just by living in an advanced urban technological civilization in the 21st century keeps everybody in a low level stress state just by waking up in the morning. I mean, what I think is really important for people to understand is that the our body's automatic default is when we encounter change, even good change, any change that is demanded of us, any adaptation, any adjustment to our behavior will automatically set off a stress reaction. And people are puzzled change. I mean, we live in a world of change. Why would something common like change, be interpreted by our body minds as a threat to set off a fight or flight reaction? But what people don't seem to appreciate is that our bodies haven't changed in any noticeable way, according to the physiologists, in the last 30 to 50,000 years. So, in essence, we are all living in bodies that are virtually indistinguishable from our ancestors who were hunter gatherers and still lived in caves. And our bodies evolved over a very, very long period of time. And it was very advantageous as a hunter gatherer to react to change as a threat. I mean, if you were out on the hunt or foraging for food, you're living as a hunter gatherer in a world that really things didn't change. They were constant, they were static. Children lived in the same world as their parents did, as their grandparents did.
Right, but you
They,
ran when a saber-toothed tiger came your way.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So you're out doing your thing, and suddenly, out of the corner of your eye, there's a change. Something, a branch moves, or you see something brown running through the bushes. Well, our automatic reaction to change was a fight or flight. That's what stress is. The body, in fact, the best way to understand what stress is to, you know, imagine you're driving down the highway and suddenly a truck swerves in front of you and cuts you off, and you just automatically react and you swerve and avoid a terrible accident. But as you drive on, you notice your heart's beating, your shoulders are tight, your mind is racing, maybe your stomach's in a knot. And
Yeah.
as you drive on, you heave a few sighs of relief. Well, what happened there? Well, when that truck cut in front of you, your eyes perceived a threat. And through a process, well understood by medical research, the threat is conveyed from the eye via the optic nerve to a part of your brain known as the hypothalamus. It sends a message to the master gland, the pituitary, which sends a message down to the adrenal glands, and stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline pour into the bloodstream, and the body mobilizes to fight or to run. It gets aroused, muscles tighten, breathing quickens, digestion slows down because it's fight or flee. It's a survival mechanism, and that's what stress is. It's the body vigilant, on guard, ready to fight or to run. Now, this served us well when we were hunter gatherers, and change really very often meant threat. But overnight, in the scheme of things, in the last 300 years, our culture changed dramatically. Uh, and suddenly we're living in a world of exponential change happening faster and faster and faster and faster. But our bodies haven't changed since we were hunters and gatherers. And the gap between the slow evolution of the human body and the very rapid revolution in our technology and culture imposes a stress on everyone. I mean, Alvin Toffler identified it 40 years ago. He called it future shock.
Yeah.
Well, it's here and it's now, and it's the major cause of stress. In fact, Dr. Hans Selye, who was the father of the concept of stress, a Canadian researcher at the University of Montreal, uh, uh, he called stress the problem of adaptation. And gosh, I mean, we are having to adapt in a way that no humans have ever had to adapt before. I mean, we're constantly on. We're wired, or excuse me, it's a wireless wiring. We're totally connected. We're on all the time, and we're bombarded with everything from Wi-Fi and electromagnetic pollution and noise pollution, and all these things impact on us. I mean, not that we're conscious of, but it's happening in our bodies, and our bodies are, just by waking up in the morning and living in this culture at this time, cannot escape from being in a constant chronic low level stress. And again, it's important to understand that stress is not just a thought in your head, it is a physiological reaction. Uh, Blood pressure up, heart rate up, muscles tensed, brain waves speeded up, senses heightened. Again, great when it's in a short burst, when it's an emergency and we can mobilize and avoid trouble. But when it's on constantly, even at a low level, as it is, it's a chronic strain, and it weakens our immune system, and it strains every organ. So if you, in fact, inherit, say, a genetic weakness in your pancreas and have a predisposition, perhaps for diabetes, that stress could impact on the pancreas. And that's why stress is considered, or diabetes is considered, a stress related illness, as is MS, as is heart disease, as are strokes. But stress weakens the immune system, making us susceptible to autoimmune diseases like arthritis and lupus and cancer.
So how do we begin to, be like a duck, as I like to call it, and let stress just run off our back, like water off a duck's back,
Well, again,
or
yeah, I mean, different people, what is stressful to one person may be really positive and exciting for another. For example, I mean, I may love to stand in front of 1,000 strangers and give an extemporaneous presentation for an hour or two. And I'm sure there are people listening to this right now who would rather die than stand in front of 1,000 strangers for an hour or two. It's the same stressor, but people will respond to it differently. But my point, the point that the main message of the work that I do is that we all need to shut down for periods of time regularly to allow the strain that constant stress imposes on our bodies an opportunity to be relieved. We need relief. It's like a safety valve. The problem with stress is when it's on all the time and it just builds day after day, month after month, year after year, decade after decade. And that's true for almost everybody. It's just we don't have even when we're sleeping, it's not adequate, and we don't have adequate ways of getting relief. And what I do in my work is that I teach people how to engage or turn on the mechanism in the body that is opposite to that of stress. Stress is the technically is the sympathetic nervous system getting turned on, and I teach people how to turn on the parasympathetic nervous system. There are two branches of the autonomic nervous system. One's an arousal state, and one's a rest state. And the problem is that the sympathetic nervous system or stress is on chronically. Uh, and what's important is to shut it down. And you shut it down by turning on the parasympathetic nervous system. And it's the exact opposite. Whereas stress tenses muscles, the parasympathetic nervous system releases it, relaxes the muscles. They're antagonistic. They cannot both be turned on at the same time. So what I do is I teach people how to turn on the parasympathetic nervous system. We call it the relaxation response, which is a term that a cardiologist at the Harvard Medical School gave it. But it's the exact opposite, measurable. It's the exact opposite to stress. And if people, and again, you don't have to believe in it. In fact, I encourage people, take what I say as a hypothesis and test it, because what's real is what you experience. But if people properly unwind and turn on the relaxation response well, even for as little as 15 or 20 minutes, and do it 4 or 5 times a week, it is the safety valve that prevents the stress from continuing to build and build and build. I mean, you're still going to have stress. You cannot say, stop the world, I want to get off. And you need a certain amount of stress to be at your best. What you want to do is to be able to manage it so that it can be a productive and creative and healthy force rather than debilitate us as it has a tendency to do. So if one takes, a bit of time consistently, and it's like exercise, you need to take time to do it, and you build in a routine. And some people do it before sleep, and others do it first thing in the morning, and some people do it when they come home from work, and some do it on their commutes. But it's important. It's not just sitting quietly, and it's not sleeping. It's a state where you train your body. It's like training your body to go to sleep but keeping your mind alert.
right, yeah, like a daily practice of daily meditation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean,
Well,
my background, I came out of a meditation background, And I created a program that would take basically the meditative experience to people who might normally not had success with meditation or shied away from it or thought it was booga booga. And, you know, I call it the relaxation response, but it's basically I've drawn from different schools of meditation as well as the medical field and psychology and created a range of different ways, techniques to engage, to turn on the relaxation response, the parasympathetic nervous system, and with a bit of training and a bit of practice. And the techniques are simple, but it takes consistent practice, and people discover that they can train their bodies to let go to levels that, I mean, within a few weeks, the people who go through my training are able to achieve states that only an experienced meditator would be even familiar with. And but it, you know, it's a process. It involves breathing and muscle relaxation and meditative style exercise and guided imagery. And I provide a structure that gives people the. And I found that actually, and I'm just starting my 36th year
Wow,
of
good for you.
teaching, and I found very quickly uh, that it worked for almost everybody if they did the practice. So I found I even offer a guarantee that if someone comes to 5 sessions and practices roughly half an hour a day for 4 weeks, I can guarantee with a money back guarantee that they will learn how to self regulate in a way that most people never dreamed possible. I mean, I've seen medical conditions where people who have been able to get off insulin. I've seen people who've you know they've been able to get off their hypertension medication and their anti anxiety medication. In some cases, they've been on these for decades,
Hmm.
but they just never learned how to regulate themselves. Nobody ever shows us how.
Yeah. So why isn't the medical community embracing this? I know, a few doctors have,
Yeah.
and
Well,
books on the power of meditation and relaxation. But
abs-
why is
ab-
the medical community so they're really lagging behind here?
Well, this has been a major question that I've had to 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 look at, and frankly, I mean, all I can see is that there isn't a multi-billion-dollar industry supporting it as you see in the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, my own son went through McMaster medical training, and I thought, well, McMaster, this is the most holistic medical school in the country. And I imagine my surprise when I discovered that he wasn't even exposed to any of these alternatives at McMaster.
Hmm.
So it's still not even entering the system. But it's a pharmacological model.
Yeah, my nephew just graduated from med school as well, and talking to him about vitamins, and he just totally poo pooed that idea. Like, oh,
Mm.
why bother? They're a waste. I wanted to ask you something demographically. What are you seeing in your patients, like those that are in their 20s and 30s, just starting out in life? Are they embracing your teaching more so than somebody like my age, the boomer, the 50 plus generation? Because I'm feeling, truthfully, Eli, a lot lately
Yeah.
that it's like, frig, stop. I want to get off. I just really want to simplify my life.
Yeah.
And what are you seeing in those that you're working with?
Well, the biggest change that I've seen in my 35 years are the number of young people. When I first started, I rarely saw people under 40 and usually, mostly 45 to 55, 60s. However, over the last 20 years and more particularly the last decade, I've seen more and more young people. I've had classes which were very unique where the vast majority were under 25, and that's quite unusual. But uh, I also want to say that I don't have patience. I do not consider myself a therapist.
Right.
I am a skill trainer. I teach people a skill that we all should have learned when we were children, and very few did. But it's profoundly therapeutic, and most people come and are prepared to invest the time and the money because they're in a ditch. They've hit the wall. they have a serious sleeping issues, or they just been diagnosed with something, or um, rarely do people come to as a preventative skill, which is how I developed it. I developed it really as a skill for living in the 21st century. I don't know whether I was cursed or blessed, but 40 years ago, stumbled into the concept of exponential growth and found myself thinking, wow, 30, 40, 50 years down the road, we're going to be in big numbers and facing many challenges. And I began to look for a way to help me personally, and I stumbled into meditation, and it just was I marked my life in two stages, before and after. Uh, but I created my program as a life skill that I thought the healthy people would want, or the let me put it away, the healthiest people would want to learn it so that they could stay healthy, like exercise. But what happens? I mean, I think a lot of people go into exercise for vanity reasons, because they want to look better. They're not doing it. They may rationalize it for health. Many, but a lot of them are doing it just because of their outer looks. Uh, but it's really interesting, because those same people will often only come and learn how to self-regulate when they hit the wall.
Right. And they're probably, more type A personalities, like that kind of person. That
Well,
sounds
but
like a type A.
the reality is that most of us are type A.
Hmm.
We have an image of the extreme type A and say, well, that's yeah. Like I have a New Yorker cartoon of a man standing on the street, dressed in a suit with a hat on the street, and he's all angry, and it said type A, uh, next tantrum 3 p.m. I mean, uh, and that's the image we have of the aggressive, screaming executive. But the reality is that about 80% of the people that live in North American cities are type A. They're not necessarily extreme type A, they're more moderate type A, but they're still type A. And, type A behavior is a value system. It's taught to us by our teachers and our parents and our coaches and our employers, and it's rewarded behavior. And as a result, we've been shaped by a type A culture into having these type A values. But what people don't realize is that it's not just thoughts in the head. That type A behavior affects the stress hormones in our body. It's the way we look at things. Uh, and actually, in one study, showed that extreme type A's produced up to 400% more stress hormones in their bloodstream than type B's that were doing the very same task. They've actually they call type A, extreme type A's, walking time bombs, and that they had all the stress and hormone abnormalities as someone with a heart condition.
Hmm.
Uh, it's and extreme type A behavior is rated at about the same level as cigarette smoking as a contributing cause of heart disease. But the reality is that most of us are type A, and we don't even realize it. Uh,
So
I could invite people to go to my website. There's a test, and they
yeah.
can test themselves to see if they're a type A1, type A2, type AB, or a type B, and it's
So
free.
how do we handle or manage our own type A? And I guess you've alluded to it already, and that's take your program and the relax,
Yeah,
that.
I mean, the majority of people are type A, and
Yeah.
what's important is that, I mean, everybody, even type Bs, benefit by shutting down the stress reaction, because they too are living in the 21st century. But type As especially need to shut down and allow their body minds to go into balance. I mean, if you're on all the time, it's a profound strain. And again, it doesn't stress problems don't emerge overnight. They emerge over decades. So as we age, the chickens start to come home to roost. I mean, as you suggested, as you're getting older, the stress that you might have been able to handle 20 years ago, even at the same level, is becoming more of a burden. And you're starting to see the chickens coming home to roost. I mean, we all do. Aging I mean, actually stress is a major contributing cause of aging as well. But aging, I mean, it's aging causes stress, stress causes aging, and it's just this vicious cycle.
Well, and the other big stressor is our finances. Like here we are, like we're in this time of life where having money and having a certain lifestyle is really important, and yet this life that we're living is just like it keeps on going like a treadmill, and it seems to just keep speeding up and speeding up,
Yeah,
and it's like, you know what, I'm tired of this,
almost
and so
almost
yeah.
everybody is feeling at the a level of overwhelm today, especially now that when we're on all the time. I mean, it's so interesting. I watched over the years as people, I mean, when I started teaching back in 1978, the only listing under stress at that time in the yellow pages were engineering companies. I had to open up stress management in the phone book. So I've been doing it a long time. And it is intriguing to see. I saw when cell phones came, how people would respond. But now, with the smartphones and wireless and everybody's on, and even in the midst of a relaxation program, we take a break, and I can literally see every single person during the break have to go to their cell phone to see what they've missed.
Oh,
And I'm thinking, really? I mean,
yeah, take a break, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well,
that's our culture today.
all right, but do you see it switching, like changing, in maybe 5 years' time? Like that's it. We've had enough. We're
Oh, I
you
wish I could
know, like
say
I'd
yes.
like to say yes too, but
Yeah, but no. In fact, I've watched it getting worse, and I watched in the corporate world, which is, I have to say, has been perhaps my biggest disappointment, because the research has been so clear. I watched it kind of growing in the 80s and 90s and in the first decade. I mean, the literature is all in about how stress impairs our effectiveness, but companies don't seem to care. They use people up and they throw them away.
hmm.
And it has really been. I mean, I see it as actually we've been regressing.
I see it too in my work as as the boomer business coach, where boomers are losing jobs, and that's it. They can't get new jobs. They're not wanted anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
They yeah, man. Okay.
No, it's a challenging time, and or as the Chinese would say, "May you live in interesting times,"
Yeah, but
and
not this interesting.
and that was the curse, and they were onto it. I mean, our times are very interesting, and even the experts on the future, so-called, because there aren't any experts on the future because it never happened before, but the so-called experts have no idea what the world is going to look like in 5 or 10 years. I mean, this has never happened before.
I kind of hope it's a gentler, more loving place. But
Well, I mean, that's what my whole focus, my whole career has been about. Uh, but I'm feeling disappointed that as a culture, we didn't rise to the challenge.
yeah,
I mean, there's so many challenges that we face at this time, culturally, technologically, socially, and economically,
environmental.
environmentally,
Yeah.
and we haven't risen to the challenge.
And
Uh,
but we're bombarded with it every day too in the news media, and like I know personally, I've tried and cut back on my consumption of the news because it's really disheartening, truthfully, and we're bombarded by it, so we really do have
yeah,
to self
yeah,
manage and self regulate.
exactly. My point is you cannot escape from stress. I mean, it is the reality. In fact, one of the few certainties in this very uncertain time is that stress levels will very, very likely continue to increase dramatically for the foreseeable future. That's why it's imperative that people develop personal coping strategies to help them to not just survive, but to actually thrive uh, in a world of inordinate stress.
I used to have
And
a
and it's,
boss.
and it can be as simple as breathing.
Yeah, yeah. I used to have a boss that, this is back in my early days of my career. I was in my late 20s, and he used to say, David, sometimes you got to take a walk in the park. And at that time in my late 20s, I'm going, what? Like,
Yeah.
And now that I'm his age,
Yeah, yeah.
like, yeah, he's right. You know, Dr.
And
Gabor Mate suggests that stress, and you've alluded to it already today, causes a number of diseases. His book shows that emotion and psychological stress play a powerful role in the onset of most diseases that you've already talked about: MS, prostate, diabetes, Alzheimer's. It's almost like we allow ourselves to become inflamed, angry, emotional, upset by others. You know, they're pushing our buttons, whether it's a family member or a bad boss
yeah,
or our ex-wife or whatever. This is really alarming, and they don't teach you how to manage it. You're right, in
that's right.
school or at work. How then do we handle this displaced anger or hurt, and
Well,
how do we make it okay to have be angry and hurt, and then how do we move past that?
Well, I found, I mean, I've had the courts actually send people to my training. I had a judge who told one man he would not let him see his children until he came and did my course because of his anger. Uh, but it's interesting. I teach the same training process to people whether they're dealing with diabetes or high blood pressure or headaches or constipation or irritable bowel syndrome, or whether they want to improve their golf game. I teach the same set of techniques because what it is that it provides people to drop down into a profoundly recuperative, healing, restful state. I mean, within minutes, one is able to achieve a state of rest in the body that otherwise would take about 4 to 5 hours of sleeping to get to that same level of rest. And if one does it consistently, one of the things that almost everybody reports is that they have less anger. It's a release instead of having, again, when your body is chronically in a low level fight or flight reaction, and it is for everybody, whether they like it or not, or whether they know it or not.
Sure, the driver cutting you off in front of you could
That's right.
cause you
But
to go in a tailspin, right?
it doesn't even have to be, something dramatic. It means just, going walking to the subway. And, I mean, our bodies haven't changed since we were hunter gatherers. We evolved in a world with small communities of 300 people. Suddenly now, we're only one or two generations into this postmodern world. We're living in these large urban environments. We're bombarded with all kinds of things that we can see and what we can't see. And I mean, it's just important at every level to be able to drop down into this healing recuperative state where the body lets go of patterns, of physical patterns of, if your body's tight all the time and you're ready to fight it around, and that's the normal pattern, how do you expect to not have that same corresponding emotional state of anger or aggressiveness? And when people break out of the cycle consistently, again, it's not a pill, it's a skill that I teach. You have to work at it. It takes about 3 to 4 weeks. Almost everybody can learn it. I've taught it to children as young as 10 and to people in their 90s, and I've taught it to high functioning mentally handicapped, and I've taught it to astronauts and everything in between. We just it's something that we all need to do, is to break out of the cycle of chronic stress, and anger drops. Uh, uh, Almost everybody reports being more positive and more optimistic. Their concentration improves. They feel better about themselves. I mean, it's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, because that's what stress does. Stress is a total body reaction. It affects us in all the levels.
Yeah, it's
And
the mind body connection, right?
absolutely. And when you break out of the cycle of stress, again, consistently, but in a matter of a week or two or three, people notice differences and they're shocked.
I like talking to people who say, "Yeah, I'm taking a mental health day or I'm taking a day off," and yet, boy, they do a number on themselves and they guilt themselves for doing that. Well, I feel so guilty, and
Yeah.
could I? I shouldn't, and I
Well,
should.
that's what type A behavior is about. It's all about doing. and they don't value themselves. Type A's don't value themselves until they've ticked off all the things on the to-do list. And it's all about doing, and we become a culture of human doings. And what is imperative is, once again, we need to learn how to be, and we have to be human beings, or
Yeah.
as there was an American philosopher, Sinatra, who I think put it very succinctly. He said, "You look at all of nature, you have periods of activity, and then periods of rest. You have periods of doing, and then periods of just being." Or as Sinatra put it, do be, do be, do. Well,
Yes.
there
Mhm.
it is. We need
Yeah.
to do and we need to be. But our
Yeah.
culture has just given us the doing part. And we need to learn and to give ourselves permission to stop and to just be and to recharge the batteries
And we'll
and
be
to
way more effective the next day.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't believe there's a single physical or mental ability that's not in some way strengthened when people take a few minutes and properly unwind on a regular basis. Daily is ideal, but even just a few times a week, if it's done well, not just sitting in a chair and reading the newspaper. It's really training yourself to get the mind quiet, get the emotions at peace, releasing the tension in the body, and going into this really, I mean, only a meditator would be familiar with the state. But I've had people who've done 25 years of meditation tell me that they've never achieved such deep states as in my 3 hour sessions.
Oh, that's amazing. Very good. So, Dr. Gabor Mate, you probably heard of him.
Oh, I know him.
Yeah, he says when the body says no in his book, it's an impressive contribution to research on the physiological connection again between life stresses and emotions, and that the body systems governing the nerves, the immune apparatus, the hormones. So he says, with great compassion, erudition, he demystifies medical science, and as he did in Scattered Minds, in his book Scattered Minds, invites us all to be our own health advocate. So you mentioned, try to incorporate some relaxation, some meditation, maybe healthy, a good healthy walk, a walk in the park, or
Well, we need both exercise and relaxation. They're
okay,
not one at the expense of the other. I think Aldous Huxley put it very well. He said, the secret of efficiency lies in the ability to combine two seemingly incompatible states, a state of maximum activity and a state of maximum relaxation. So we need both.
yeah.
We
Well,
need
we treat our cars better than we do ourselves. We floor the gas pedal on the highway, and then we're taking our car in for a little oil, lube, and filter. I think we have to treat ourselves much the same way or better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's in when I guide people into relaxation, I found the one phrase that people respond to probably more than just about anything else is when I say, "Give yourself permission to let go," because we have to give ourselves permission because it's so contra to the culture, which is, it's about what did you do, what did you accomplish, you know, uh, and to just let go and just be,
Yeah, it's
and
scary to do that though. To let go
yeah,
and just be.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why I find that once people start doing it. I mean, I watch people come to my sessions and they come in and they're looking around, for where's the closest exit in case, this guy's going to steal my mind. And, I mean, really you get strange people don't know what is this. And you can see how stressed they are when they come in. But after 3 hours and they come out of the relaxation and you can see the expression on their face has been totally transformed. The energy of the room has been totally transformed. They walk out with a smile. I mean, it's really interesting to see how quickly. But people don't know what it is until they do it, and it's only and then as they do it consistently, they're stunned. They're stunned. They say, "I've had people angry. Say, how come people never showed me this before?" And I say, "It's a good question." I mean,
Yeah.
if every child was taught, I mean, my vision would be for this to be taught in the school system as a life skill. Every child should learn this, and absolutely a necessity in our time. I mean, as we have an aging population, as the boomers, age, it's going to has the potential to bankrupt our healthcare system.
Oh, totally. We're on the
And
verge of a big
that's
crisis.
right. And really something as simple as these simple self-regulatory techniques. Again, that even high functioning mentally handicapped can learn and children can learn. I mean, if this was, encouraged and, just like a participation, encouraged exercise, we need a similar kind of process, but there's no support in the culture for it. Again, um, we need people marching in the streets for it.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Pitchforks.
All right, that's it. I'm in. I'm in. So we're kind of pushing our time boundary. I had a few sort of rapid fire questions, but we're gonna you're gonna lead us in a meditation, right?
Okay.
But
So
before we do, tell us about what you got going on, where we connect with you, and what programs you have. This is
well,
Shane.
I run a program with regularity at Bathurst and St. Clair in Toronto. I advise people go to my website, elibay.com, elibay.com. There's a schedule. I'm also about to launch something I've been working on for a few years now, and it's just coming to fruition, an online training program. But it's not going to be for the general public. Our initially, it's going to be to organizations. Um, and if anyone out there is interested, feel free to call me, and I'd be happy to tell you about it. But my individual training, I run a five classes, each are 3 hours, once a week for 3 hours at a time, and I train people experientially. It's not theory, and it's not reading, and it's not tips. It's learn to do by doing. I experientially teach people really how to unwind, and if they, and my guarantee is that if you do it and you at the end and it's not, you still can't do it with confidence, you can ask for your money back or keep coming at no cost until it kicks in. Uh, but the reality is that we are hardwired to be able to unwind from stress, but most people have just never learned how to turn it on.
So it's like just try it, you'll like it. I think that was a
Yeah,
tagline
yeah,
for a commercial or a product a few years ago.
yeah,
So your website is elibay.com. With this
yes.
new program, this corporate online program, are you open to maybe people on the call or watching this to affiliates, to other people selling your services to their
Not,
clients?
not at this stage, although if somebody uh, has an opening to, or is could provide an introduction to a large organization, I'd be happy to talk to them about recompense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good. So elibay.com. We had, well, those are our, uh, yeah, I'm going to just go back here. We had those people ready for our next calls. So just to let people know that tomorrow night we have a special class, and that's Terry Evanshin, former CFL great, will be with us. And then the week after, we talk money with Garen Colcott. So we're moving through the SWIFT method really nicely. So Eli, you've got a meditation you're going to queue up, and we're going to get a
Well, yeah.
little. We're going to have a
Now,
sample.
but I see we only have a few minutes, and would really like to do more than just 10 minutes or 8 minutes. But we'll do what we can do.
Let's
I
do
know.
it.
Yeah.
Are you
Okay.
okay to go maybe 5 minutes over? And is that all
Oh,
right?
I'm okay.
All right, I'm
Sure.
okay too. Yeah,
Okay, then let's do it.
I'm going
So
to get
I
here.
so I'm going to advise everybody who's listening to please get comfortable. And if you're driving, don't listen to this. Okay.
Well, listen,
uh,
just don't do it.
no, yeah, don't know, don't. But I advise people at home, get comfortable, unplug the phone, and close your eyes,
Okay.
and begin by taking a deep, full breath in through your nose. Just inhale deeply and guide the air down into your tummy, so that as you inhale, your tummy rises, and then as you exhale, let it down. So I'm going to invite you. Breathe in through your nostrils and deliberately guide the air down into the bottom third of your lungs, into your tummy, so that when you inhale, your tummy rises, and as you exhale, your tummy falls. Just do this with concentration. In through the nose, you can breathe out through your nose or out through your mouth, whatever you prefer, but always breathe in through your nose and just focus the air down into the bottom third of your lungs. Most of us are shallow breathers, and relaxed breathing is diaphragmatic. And you can literally train yourself to breathe diaphragmatically within just a few weeks. Almost everybody can retrain their breathing. And when your breathing changes, the way you react to the stress around you changes. But what I'm going to ask you to do now, with eyes closed, breathe in as before through your nose and take the air down into your abdomen and let your stomach expand into a bit of a pot belly. And then continue to breathe in and just slowly and deliberately fill your lungs from the bottom to the top. And as you exhale, as you breathe out, allow your muscles to loosen. Let go of the tightness in your shoulders and jaw and stomach. So you're breathing in through the nose, guiding the air down into the bottom part of your lungs, into your tummy. Let your tummy expand and just deliberately fill your lungs from bottom to top. And with every out breath, let go. Give yourself permission to let go of the tightness. Most of us walk around in bodies as if we were ready to, as if we were sitting in a dentist chair. We're tight. Notice that and let it go. And just keep the breathing. Slow, deep, full, satisfying breaths filling your torso from your hips right to your neck. And with every out breath, let go. Let your muscles go loose. Breathing is a rhythm that's with us from the moment we're born until the moment we die. And most of us never pay attention to our breathing. And yet, just breathing in this way is changing the internal chemistry in your body. You're changing the acid alkaline ratio. You're directing hormones through your endocrine system. This simple exercise, if you do nothing else, you can do this when you're driving, walking, lying in bed, behind a desk, before an interview or a meeting. And it's probably, if I had one method to teach out of the many, this is the one I teach. Just slow, deep, full breaths and letting go on the exhalation. And some people like to add colors. For example, if I had more time, I would take you to, okay, breathe in the color red, filling your lungs from bottom to top with the color red. And then as you exhale, let it go. And then orange, and then yellow, and go through the colors of the rainbow to stay focused. Each time you breathe out, let go. Allow it. So focus in through the nose, down into the tummy, and just deliberately filling your lungs from the bottom to the top. And with every out breath, let go. And just stay with that. Get into a rhythm. This is great if you're lying in bed and can't sleep. Sometimes just a few minutes of this slow, deep, full, satisfying breathing can work wonders. Or if you're behind a desk and you're losing your focus and you're feeling anxious, again, sometimes just a couple of minutes of this breathing can just work wonders. And when you finish the breath that you're doing now, don't start another deep, full breath, but just sit with your eyes closed and just be aware of what you're feeling. And now I'd like you just sitting comfortably, just focus your concentration onto your forehead. Let your forehead be loose and smooth. And relax your eyelids. You know, of all the muscles in your body, your eyelid muscles are among the easiest to relax. So let your eyelids go loose and just allow relaxation to spread down into your cheeks and into your jaw. Let go of your jaw. The word to relax in Latin literally translates as letting go. So when I say to relax, I mean let go of the tightness. Many of us carry a lot of tightness in the jaw. Let it go. Let your tongue let your tongue be loose. Let your lips slightly part. And just allow relaxation to spread down into your neck and shoulders. Let your shoulders go. Allow it. And permit the relaxation to move down into your upper arms, into your biceps and triceps. It's letting go. And down your forearms. And just allow the relaxation to move down your hands, right to the tips of your fingers. It's letting go. Allow your arms to be loose and heavy, like balloons filled with wet cement. Now, direct your attention, please, to your throat. Let your throat relax and let the relaxation move down into your chest and down to your solar plexus and stomach. These are areas where many of us carry a lot of tightness. Let it go. Allow your solar plexus and allow your stomach to relax. Now direct your awareness, please, to your upper back between your shoulder blades and let that area unknot. Let it go. And just allow relaxation to spread down into your mid-back and into your lower back muscles. It's letting go. And just allow the relaxation to spread down into your buttocks and thighs. And just permit the relaxation to move down into your calves, and ankles, and feet. And your body is just loose and comfortable. Your mind is alert. And just focus your attention at your nostrils. And just don't control the breath. Just observe it. Just watch the air coming in and going out of your nostrils. Normal breaths. And just see if you can notice the air cooler as it enters your nostrils and maybe a little warmer as it exits. Focus. Just see if you can notice air cooler as it comes in, warmer as it leaves. Normal breaths. Focus. And now just see if you can notice where the out breath turns and starts to become an in breath, or where the in breath turns to become an out breath. There's a turning point of the breath. Just breathe normally, but just focus and see if you can be aware of the turning point of each breath. Now I'd like you to direct your attention into your chest and just see if you can mentally locate your heartbeat. Now direct your attention to your thumbs and see if you can mentally locate the pulse in your thumbs. Just let go. You don't have to do anything. You can just be. And just watch your body breathing itself. Watch your abdomen rising and falling on its own. Let go. Now I invite you to take a deep, full breath in through your nose and hold the breath for a moment and let it go. And just slowly, little bit by little bit, just slowly now, please begin to open your eyes. Welcome back.
Wow. Yeah, now I'm ready for a nap.
But I mean I did that in what 8 minutes,
Yeah.
9 minutes maybe. What I normally do, my exercises that are available on my website and as MP3s, they're 20 to 25 minutes long, and they take people into deep relaxation. And my sessions are 3 hours long, and each exercise works and is taught to people so they can go home and practice them. But by doing 6 or 7 of them, one after the other, in a process that has been crafted to each one build on the effects of the previous exercise, that what happens is that people are guided into an unusual experience of profound relaxation, and it gets remembered. It's a body knowledge that is grown. And once it is stretched to a certain point, it's easy to go back there. And what happens is that by the end of just, working with these techniques over a period of a few weeks, people discover that they can drop into this deep state quickly, confidently, anywhere, anytime, on command, as a skill. But you have to grow it. It's not a pill.
No, you gotta do it every
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
It's like 21 days to make a great habit, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a man who phoned me today who said he did my training 7 years ago and how it worked for years, but then he stopped doing it. And now his issues came back. And that's why I always emphasize, yeah, you have to build it into your life the way you clean your teeth.
Yeah. Yeah. I know my dentist, he's on me about flossing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's something that you have to do. And in the 21st century, this is a necessity. It's not something that would be a nice thing to do. It's something that everybody needs to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the stress levels are not going to decrease.
No.
Believe me. I promise you that.
Yeah. And,
So,
and when we are in a better frame of mind, a better state, we're able to handle those stress levels a lot more proactively too.
oh yeah, and interesting. I mean, for any of your listeners who choose to go to my website, on my website under the resources section is a graphic summary of research that was done on 2,700 people who have gone through my training, and it's quite dramatic. I mean, I've seen it, but the people who did who did the graphics, I mean, they were blown away. They couldn't believe, how how people with migraines and with depression and whole series of significant concerns were, in some cases, able to eliminate them in a month and never to return.
That's amazing.
I mean,
Eli,
yes.
yeah, I just can't thank you enough for this today. This is brilliant.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and I'm happy. I've always supported you, David,
Yeah.
and I think you're doing fine work. And I'm delighted that you chose to call on me.
Well,
And
and the feeling's mutual. You're a class act, and the work you're doing is so important. And I'm here for you too, man. And I think everybody that takes part in this and sees it after the fact, even they're just going to be in for a true treat. So thank you so much.
pleasure, and
Yeah, and we'll stay in touch. And I'd like to do this a little more with you. I think too.
okay. I'm game. I can do a longer meditation too.
Oh, beautiful. So it's elibay.com, and check out your website and the tools and the success stories. And if you're
Yeah.
feeling it, this is it's healthy. I'm not a big fan of medicine and pills either. So I like the more natural way too.
Well,
Truthfully,
I'm very excited about our online program. We've been working on it just forever,
yeah.
but it's finally at a point where actually we're going to be testing it with the Mars Discovery Group,
Oh, beautiful.
and they helped us a lot. Actually, we recreated we did a website. Took us almost 3 years to create, and then we tested it and found that it was too 20th century, and I had to go right back to the drawing board and start over again.
Wow.
And Mars helped us. We asked for best practices in interactive websites, and they gave us such wonderful information. It was tremendous.
You see, I think we talked about things changing, and there's centers like Mars. And last night I was up in Cannington, Ontario,
Hmm.
for a youth entrepreneurship organization in this little small town of 2,000 people, and they're promoting youth entrepreneurship and social purpose enterprise and alternative ways to finance. So I think there is a shift happening, and the community's changing, and things are changing, and I hope it continues to change for the best.
Oh, I do too. I
Yeah.
mean, it's now or never, eh?
Yeah, no kidding. Thank you so much again, Eli. I really appreciate this. And thank you, everybody, for being on